Right, so now I'm going to run through a quick demo of how you'd actually go about setting up the vise to hold a piece of stock. So something similar to what you'd be doing with your pocket NCs. So the first thing I want to do is actually create a new component. I'm going to call it stock. Press OK. And then what I'm going to do is get an offset plane, and I'm going to select the top of this support assembly here. So that kind of purple part. And press OK. And then I'm going to put a sketch on there. But I'm going to come back up to this level and put the sketch on there. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm going to outline the shape of the stock, and then I want the stock to sit at this level. So you'll see I'm going to hit P on my keyboard for project. I'm going to project this circle here, and the reason I'm doing that is because that is the center of the vise. So this dot here at the center of the circle is the center of the vise. So I'm going to hide the vise like that, and then I'm going to draw my stock. I'm going to center it around the center of that circle. So I'm going to press L on my keyboard and draw a couple of construction lines to the midpoint here and here. And then I'm going to hit H on my keyboard, which gives me the horizontal and vertical constraint, and select those lines. So what that does is kind of center it, so it makes it symmetric on either side to this line and to this line. And then I'm going to dimension it. So what I've done is, if I press stock, I get a little drop down menu, and I can select stock width there and stock length there. And what those are parameters that you bring up in the parameter table. So go up to modify, come down to change parameters, and you'll see I've set up parameters, which is always useful because you can quickly change the numbers in here and then reference them across different sketches. Whereas if I didn't do that, I could delete a dimension here, and if it was referenced in another sketch, that other sketch would lose its reference. Whereas when you've got it in the parameter table, those sketches always reference back to the parameter table. So long as you don't delete it in here, you can delete it anywhere else. Right, so that is the outline of my stock. So I'm going to finish sketch. I'm going to come back down to make the vise visible. So what I want to do, I'll actually just extrude this for the sake of making it a bit easier to understand. I'll extrude the shape, and I'll extrude it by the stock height. That's okay. So it's quite a big piece of stock for the Pocket NC. I'll make the vise visible again, and I'll just hide that piece of stock. So what you want to do is basically move these out and then clamp the stock, so you can see it's sitting on top of the support assembly. So the way you go about doing that is to first of all set your fixed jaw. So that's your locator here, and the stock will butt up against that, and then you'll move the vise in and you tighten the wedge down, and that clamps against the stock. So this isn't a self-centering vise. The stock isn't going to sit directly in the center. So really what you're trying to do is get this locator as close as you can to the edge of that stock. So I think that is about, I could go further back or to there, and I think that's the best option. So what I'm going to do is set up a joint. I'm going to say joint. I'm going to make sure it's rigid, so there we go, rigid. I'm going to select two edge intersection, and you'll see why in a second. So I'm going to select this tooth on the fixture plate, and then two edge intersection again, select these edges on the locator, and you can see it fixes it in position. Hit OK, and then what I'm actually going to do is another sketch. So I'm going to leave this vise for the moment, going to come back up to the top, yep, and go sketch. I'm going to make the vise invisible for the moment. I'm also going to make the stock body invisible for the moment. Bring up that construction plane, select it again, hit capture position. Right, so now I'm drawing on the same plane I was before. I'm going to bring up the vise. And this locator is now fixed in position. So what I'm going to do is project the corner of that locator and just hit OK. So I press P on my keyboard. That brings up the project command. Select that edge and it projects it to the sketch plane. So press OK once I've done that. And you'll notice that I'm using the just the plane locator here. You don't actually, I don't provide this. Instead what you get is either the knurled jaw, which is that to grip into parts, or you get the soft jaws, which you do use for second operations. The reason I've included this locator is because it's just useful for things like this. It's quite hard if you're using the knurled jaw to kind of project a tooth, whereas you can use this flat surface, which is in line with the edge of the, if I bring it back up, you can see the knurled teeth just go right to the front there. So it's not as if it sticks further out or it doesn't stick quite as far out. It's a true representation of where the edge of the teeth are. So it just makes it easier for setting up in CAD. So I'll hide that again. And then what I'm going to do is the same as I did before. I'm going to project this, hit OK, to give me my center point. I'm going to draw out the shape of the stock and dimension it. So I want stock width again, and then I want stock length. But this time I'm going to press C, so that brings up the coincident. Press C on my keyboard, select this line and attach it to that point. So what that is doing is bringing the edge of the stock against my fixed jaw. So as I said, it's not a self-centering vise, so the stock is never going to be absolutely central, which doesn't matter so long as you've got it accurately represented in CAD. The Pocket NC doesn't matter. It doesn't need to be centered in the vise. Right, so then one thing I do need to do is just center it this way. So I'll bring this up to the central line up there. That's the midpoint, that little triangle you see. And then I'll press H on my keyboard to make that vertically constrained. And then you see all the lines have gone black. So that means it's fully constrained sketch. Right, so finish sketch. And then what I'm going to do is create this. So this will be my actual stock. So I'm going to extrude it by, again, the stock height. I will do that. Stock height. And bring that body up. Right, so it's body number 2. Now, so that is where the stock will actually stick when you're holding it up against the locator there. So now I've done that, I want to bring my vise in. Pull it towards the stock. I'm going to have a look and see where it's best to go. So probably on this tooth here. So again, I'll select a joint. I'll make sure it's rigid. That's the motion I've got. And then 2 edge intersection. Select this tooth on the fixture plate, 2 edge intersection again, select this tooth on the vise body. Okay, so that's the first step, and then obviously we need to bring the jaw out to contact the edge of the stock to hold it. So we do that by drawing another sketch. So I'm going to create another. I don't need a sketch plane. The reason you normally have a sketch plane is so then if for whatever reason you alter the parts, if the sketch plane loses its reference, all you have to do is select the plane and reference it, and then the sketch automatically updates. Whereas if you put the sketch on the part itself, it often means the sketch itself loses references, and it just makes it much more work to kind of correct that. So you can do a sketch just on there. I will actually put a sketch plane on there to do it properly. So an offset plane, capture position on there. Hit OK. Makes construction lines visible. Create sketch. Put it on there. And what I'm going to do is project. You can use project or intersect here because this does intersect the sketch plane. So I'll just hit project, select that face and hit OK. And then what I'm going to do is project again, and I'm going to project the corner of that vice jaw there. And then I'm going to draw a line and connect the two. Press H to bring up the horizontal and vertical constraints, just make it a straight line, like so. And now what I'm trying to do is bring the point of this vice jaw to that point there. And as I showed you in a previous video, all the joints in here are connected. So as soon as I pull this jaw out to that point, everything else will move with it. So I'll press Finish Sketch, and then Join. And what I'm trying to do is a rigid joint, and I can just if I can find it, get it lined up properly. There we go. So select this face and then that corner, and then try and find the right plane. There we go. So you see it brings the jaw out, and then press OK. Right, so I actually just had to take a moment there to work out what's gone on. So if I go back, I've got a little warning, edit joint. I'm going to delete these two, press select the front of that line, and then for that, select that, and that should, I don't want it going through -19, press OK, and there we go. I don't know why that is, but that's corrected it. And yeah, you can see the wedges automatically move down, so that'll tell you which wedge you need. So if I go into the vice assembly, I don't need the largest wedge, so it looks like this is the right wedge for me. Yeah, this one, I don't know. Yeah, that's actually an alright wedge. Or you can use a slightly larger one which just comes out the top of it, but I'll go with this, the smallest wedge. And then you can hide the screws that you're not using, so the vice screws which are here. So I want that one and to hide the other two, and there you go. You are fully set up. I'll hide these sketches as well. Fully set up with the stock as it would appear in real life on your machine. The final thing that you can maybe do is move the supports into position. So for instance, you could have one right over here just supporting it at the far edge under the locator, and over here under the jaw. It's really up to you, but there's two in there, so yeah, when you've got a piece of stock and the vice is kind of getting towards its maximum limit, use two at either end, and that's probably the best way to support it. If it's a smaller piece of stock, maybe just one in the middle underneath. But there you go, that's you set up. Any questions, just email me or drop me a message on social media, and I'll do my best to answer it. Thank you.